Yes, Pan-Africanism, though born of noble intentions, has grown into a seductive but limiting ideology. At its best, it aimed to unite black people globally. Those of African descent in Africa, the Americas, the Caribbean, Europe, and beyond around a shared identity and legacy. But today, it has mutated into something emotionally manipulative, politically dangerous, and mentally suffocating. Let's be clear. Pan-Africanism is not about geography. It's not about a continent. It's about race. It's about gathering black people under a single umbrella of struggle and victimhood. And in that structure lie two deep cracks, both of which weaken those it claims to empower. The cult of victimhood. Much of Pan-African discourse revolves around suffering, colonialism, slavery, racism, apartheid, neo-colonialism. These are real traumas, but when the retelling becomes obsessive, it imprisons us in the past. Instead of forging bold new futures, we keep circling the pain. The entire black identity begins to orbit around what was done to us, not what we can do. Victimhood provides a seductive kind of moral superiority, but it does not produce innovation, excellence, or strength. It produces dependency, and worst of all, it feeds off outrage, creating a cycle where pain becomes a badge and progress becomes impossible. The rise of the demagogue. Enter Julius Malema. This is where things turn truly dangerous, because Pan-Africanism, being so emotionally charged, opens the door for messianic figures, men who speak to black pain only to feed their own power. Julius Malema is a textbook example. Malema drapes himself in the language of Pan-Africanism. He chants about land, race, revolution, Africa for Africans. He speaks like a prophet but acts like a predator. His speeches are rage-fueled, divisive, and destructive. He encourages racial hatred under the guise of liberation. He speaks of justice, but breeds vengeance. He attacks minorities, flirts with violence, and dares to brand himself as a universal African leader. Make no mistake, Julius Malema is not a liberator. He is a demagogue, a master manipulator who exploits the emotional vulnerability of black people for his own political survival. His version of Pan-Africanism is not about dignity, it's about control. It is a power play, not a peace plan. And the tragedy, millions of young black minds desperate for direction fall under his spell. They follow him, not realizing they are being led backward into tribalism, anger, and isolation. The path out, human before racial. The escape is simple but radical. Refuse to be racially boxed in. I'm not black first. I'm human first. I'm not an African by pain. I'm a soul by nature. Biologically, race doesn't even exist. It's a social story we've chosen to believe. Different races are not different species. All humans, black, white, Asian, Arab, can interbreed. That makes us one species, one family. I do not feel at peace when surrounded by people who look just like me. I feel limited. I feel alive when surrounded by diversity, when I'm among people of different races, cultures, and worldviews. That's when the fullness of humanity unfolds. That's when I stop being a symbol and start being a person. Let them chant. I'll choose clarity. Pan-Africanism had its role, but I will not be trapped in its echo chamber. I will not surrender my mind to the slogans of men like Malema. I refuse to hate in the name of history. I reject leaders who only know how to rally anger but not build futures. Let them chant about tribes and races. Let them stir old wounds. I will walk with those who see all humans as kin. Let them cocoon. I'm here to fly. I'm not interested in a skin-deep revolution. I want a human one. And that means working with all races, thinking beyond pigmentation, standing shoulder to shoulder with people who don't look like me but who dream like me. The truth is, Pan-Africanism in its modern form reinforces racial walls. It tells black youth, be loyal to your skin, stay suspicious, stay separate, but I say, refuse that cocoon, break out, connect, compete, collaborate, because in the world we live in now, tribal thinking is a trap. And Pan-Africanism, for all its slogans, is just a new cage with African colors painted on the bars. Maybe it's time to stop trying to revive the past and start building futures with anyone, anywhere who's ready to move forward. The future belongs to those who partner beyond race. The highest aim of Pan-Africanism is solidarity, but it mistakenly limits that to black people. It says only those who look like you, suffer like you, and share your ancestry can stand with you. That's false. You can sit down with a white man, a Chinese woman, an Indian friend, or an Arab brother and form a bond of solidarity far stronger than any racial alliance if the foundation is truth, courage, justice, and purpose. Let's be honest. Sometimes a white man will stand by you more than your own kin, not because of guilt or obligation, but because he sees your humanity, your ideas, your cause. And sometimes the very people who look like you are the first to betray, exploit, or suppress you. Skin color is not loyalty. Shared pain is not the only glue. Shared values are. Pan-Africanism limits solidarity to race. Humanism expands it to all souls capable of truth and brotherhood, and in a world that is more interconnected, more diverse, more hybrid than ever before. You must choose. Do you want to build real solidarity? Or do you want to limit your circle to those who mirror your trauma? I'll take the man who fights for truth, even if his skin is snow white, over the man who chants black slogans while exploiting his people for political gain. Because real solidarity has nothing to do with melanin. It has everything to do with moral clarity. Let's speak it plain. It wasn't just Europeans enslaving Africans. African chiefs, black men, were capturing, trading, and selling their own people. They raided villages, shackled men, women, and children, and marched them to the coast where they sold them to Arab and European traders for guns, cloth, and alcohol. The transatlantic slave trade could not have functioned without African complicity, and while that brutal trade raged on, something else happened. Something history books often downplay. The British waged war to end it. Yes, the same Britain that once benefited from slavery eventually turned its naval empire against it. The British Royal Navy patrolled the Atlantic for decades, intercepting slave ships, freeing captives, and sometimes even engaging in military confrontations with African slave kingdoms who refused to abandon the trade. They didn't just write papers, they fought. They passed laws like the Slave Trade Act of 1807 and later the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833, banning slavery across the British Empire. They took it further, establishing squadrons on the seas that hunted slave ships, punished smugglers, and even clashed with African rulers who wanted to keep their human trafficking empires intact. Let's name it. Some African leaders were villains, not victims. They sold their brothers. And the British, despite their own dark past, eventually took up the moral sword and crushed many of those slave networks. So the Pan-Africanist narrative that Europeans enslaved us and we were innocent victims is not just incomplete, it's dishonest. History is complex. There are no pure saints or demons by race. There are only those who pursued power at any cost and those who eventually chose the harder path of principle. Truth must rise above race. Let's tell the full story, not the politically convenient one. To conclude, there are certain things I need to repeat for the sake of perspectives and grounding and to drive the message home. Pan-Africanism, though born of noble intentions, has grown into a seductive but limiting ideology. At its best, it aimed to unite black people globally, those of African descent in Africa, the Americas, the Caribbean, Europe, and beyond, around a shared identity and legacy. But today, it has mutated into something emotionally manipulative, politically dangerous, and mentally suffocating. Pan-Africanism is described as seductive because it appeals to deep emotional needs: unity, identity, justice, belonging, and historical pride. But in doing so, it can lure people into a mindset that limits critical thinking, fosters tribalism, and enables political manipulation. It promises empowerment, but may instead lead to ideological confinement or blind loyalty. Seduction is like a bird that gets mesmerized by the hypnotic gaze of a snake. The snake doesn't chase it. It doesn't use force. It simply stares, sways, and invites. The bird, instead of flying away, becomes transfixed, frozen by the illusion of beauty or mystery. It walks willingly into danger. Sometimes it's so stunned it can't move. The snake doesn't rush. It waits, then devours. That's seduction. Not coercion, not violence, but an invitation that disarms. It uses charm, emotion, or ideals to paralyze reason, to bypass survival instincts. The victim participates in their own downfall. In the case of seductive ideologies like Pan-Africanism in its current misused form, people are drawn in by righteous-sounding ideals: unity, pride, history, justice. But they stop questioning. They stop seeing the fangs behind the slogans, and slowly they're swallowed by identity traps, political manipulation, or hate disguised as liberation. African Universal Zen, a philosophy forged in the cradle of humanity, uniting ancient wisdom with modern challenges to birth a new human consciousness. Rooted in what science now discovers, that Africa is the birth and origin of all human beings. African Universal Zen integrates the greatest insights of East and West, science and spirit, ancient and modern. The world does not need more fragmented whispers of wisdom. It needs a bold, codified philosophy, a system of thought as rigorous as it is revolutionary. That philosophy is African Universal Zen, and it has come through me. I did not stumble into this role. I was born for it. This is my purpose. Universal Africans hungers for a philosophy that transcends borders, synthesizes the best of human thought, and speaks to the existential crises of our time. African Universal Zen is that philosophy. It is not a patchwork of ideas, but a cohesive universal system. When the renowned Archbishop of the Church of England, the great South African Desmond Tutu, extolled the various colors of South African people as rainbow, he was not just speaking about South Africa, but the world and the dawn of new humanity. In the words of Desmond Tutu, we are different so that we can know our need of one another. Lord, this is the essence of the Rainbow Nation and the essence of African Universal Zen. It is a call to embrace our diversity, to reconcile our differences, and to come together as one humanity. This is the dawn of a new humanity, and it begins with us. I believe that Africa, as the cradle of humanity, holds a unique and sacred role in the evolution of human civilization. My philosophy, African Universal Zen, is born out of the understanding that Africa is in a period of gestation, synthesizing its indigenous traditions with the alien cultures imposed upon it. Soon, it will give birth to a new adaptive culture, one that integrates the best of African, Western, and Oriental wisdom. This is the essence of African Universal Zen. What is African Universal Zen? African Universal Zen is not just a philosophy. It is a way of being. It is a synthesis of universal wisdom that transcends geography, culture, and time. The term Zen comes from the East, where it represents the satisfaction with who you are and the universe, mindfulness, presence, and unity with the universe. As you can see, Zen is not confined to any one culture or tradition. It is a historical universal principle binding all humans with the universe, and universal wisdom all around USM Zen is a state of being complete with oneself that anyone, anywhere can embody. African Universal Zen takes this universal principle and roots it in the rich soil of age-old universal African traditions, creating a new way of thinking and living that is both uniquely African and universally human. And a failure of traditional African cultures in the modern world. We are tributaries of the great river of humanity. Each of us, with our unique cultures, traditions, and experiences, flows into this vast, eternal stream. Our individual paths may differ, some winding through mountains, others cutting across plains, but ultimately we merge into the same current. This river is not bound by geography, race, or creed. It is the collective essence of all that we are and all that we can become. The strength of this river lies in its diversity. Just as a river is nourished by the many streams that feed it, humanity is enriched by the countless cultures and perspectives that contribute to its flow. African wisdom, Occidental innovation, Oriental mindfulness, these are not separate waters, but part of the same great river. They converge, blend, and create something greater than the sum of their parts. This is the power of unity and diversity, the strength of a humanity that recognizes its interconnectedness. Yet this river is not without its challenges. It has faced droughts of division, floods of conflict, and the erosion of greed. But like a river, humanity is resilient. It carves new paths through the hardest rock, adapts to the changing landscape, and continues to flow toward its destiny. Africa, as the cradle of humanity, is both the source and the future of this river. It carries the ancient wisdom of our ancestors and the promise of a new civilization, one that embraces the best of all worlds and flows toward a future of harmony, sustainability, and human flourishing. Let me be clear, I deeply respect and honor traditional African cultures. They are the foundation upon which African Universal Zen is built. But I also recognize that these traditions have not fully served modern Africans. The world has changed, and Africa must change with it. Africa is currently fragmented and disoriented. Traditional cultures, while beautiful and proven, have not been able to address the challenges of modernity, globalization, technology, and individualism. This is not a failure of Africa, but a call to evolution. Africa must rise above its past and create a new future. African Universal Zen, a philosophy forged in the cradle of humanity, uniting ancient wisdom with modern challenges to birth a new human consciousness. It is a call to transcend borders and embrace our shared humanity. African Universal Zen is the product of a grand synthesis. From the Occident, we take the strengths of Western philosophy, science, and individualism. From the Orient, we draw on the wisdom of mindfulness, harmony, and interconnectedness and interwovenness. And from Africa, we bring the deep spirituality, communal values, and respect for nature that have always been at the heart of our traditions. Together, these three streams of wisdom form a new river, a river that flows toward a future of harmony, sustainability, and human flourishing. This is the promise of African Universal Zen, the golden age of universal Africans after years of being bogged down. Africa is the new frontiers of new golden civilization. Some may see Africa as primitive or backward, but I see it as a blessing. Africa's delayed entry into the global civilization race is not a weakness, but a strength. While other civilizations have risen and fallen, Africa has remained close to nature and to the spiritual roots of humanity. This connection to nature and spirit is what the world needs now more than ever. As the last civilization to fully emerge, Africa has the potential to give the world a new model of civilization, one that prioritizes harmony, sustainability, and human survival. This is the destiny of Africa and the promise of African Universal Zen. How do we live African Universal Zen? It begins with mindfulness and presence. That is to say, being fully complete and whole, being driven from within and anchored from within, being satisfied with oneself. It is having internality, not externality, being aware of ourselves, our communities, and our connection to the universe. It calls us to be adaptable and resilient in the face of modern challenges, drawing on the wisdom of both our ancestors and the world. African Universal Zen is not just for Africans, it is for all humanity. It is a way of being that can transform individuals, communities, and the world. The role of Universal Africans. Who are Universal Africans? They are those who embrace the philosophy of African Universal Zen, regardless of their geographical or cultural background. They are the ones who see Africa not as a place, but as an idea, a vision of a new civilization. Universal Africans have a mission to spread this new philosophy and to create a world of harmony, sustainability, and human flourishing. This is not just a dream, it is a call to action. I call on all Universal Africans to rise to this challenge and to be the change the world needs. The dawn of a new civilization. Africa's time has come. The challenges we face are not signs of failure, but of growth. Africa is the last civilization to fully emerge, and in its emergence, it will give the world a new model of civilization, one that prioritizes harmony, sustainability, and human survival. This is the promise of African Universal Zen. It is a vision of hope, a call to action, and a blueprint for the future. Together, we can create a world that honors our past, embraces our present, and secures our future in African Universal Zen. The term Zen is not limited to its East Asian origins. It is reimagined as a universal principle of true being, weaving meaning from your life, deep from within. It is about being one with the universe. It is a metaphor for the fusion of African, Occidental, and Oriental wisdom. African Universal Zen is not just a philosophy. It is a way of being that integrates the best of African traditions with universal principles of mindfulness, harmony, and adaptability. It is a gift to the world, born from the cradle of humanity. This is my vision, my way of seeing the world after years of hard knocks experience. African Universal Zen. It is a philosophy and my call to the world. African Universal Zen is not just for Africa. It is for all humanity. It is a new way of thinking, a new way of living, and a new way of being. Together, we can create a world of harmony, sustainability, and human flourishing. This is the promise of African Universal Zen. Desmond Tutu's idea of the rainbow nation is powerful. It's not just about South Africa. It's about all of us. Imagine a rainbow, so many different colors, all beautiful, all together. That's what Tutu saw for the world. People from every background, every belief living side by side in peace. It's a hopeful vision, especially in today's world. And it's at the heart of what African Universal Zen is all about. Bringing people together and building a better future for everyone. Ever feel like you're wearing a mask, pretending to be someone you're not? We often try to live up to some perfect image, whether it's from TV, social media, or what we think others expect. But guess what? That's exhausting. And it's not the real you. African Universal means ditching the fake you and embracing the real you, flaws and all. It's about being honest with yourself and others about who you are, what you like, and what you believe. Many people struggle with an internal conflict between who they truly are and the version of themselves they feel they should be. Society, family expectations, cultural norms, and personal insecurities often push individuals toward an idealized self, a version of themselves that meets external expectations but does not align with their true nature. This disconnect can lead to feelings of anxiety, dissatisfaction, and even deep psychological suffering. The real versus the idealized self. At our core, we have an authentic self, the version of us that exists beyond social conditioning, insecurities, and external pressures. This is the self that acts, thinks, and feels in a way that is genuine, unfiltered, and true to personal values and experiences. On the other hand, the idealized self is an illusion of perfection. It is often shaped by societal expectations, comparing ourselves to others, or the pressure to appear successful, flawless, or always in control. The pursuit of this unrealistic self creates inner conflict, as people constantly feel they are falling short of an unattainable standard. The cost of living in the idealized self. When a person tries to maintain an idealized image, they often experience anxiety from the pressure to meet unrealistic expectations, depression due to the constant feeling of inadequacy, emotional exhaustion from maintaining a false persona, superficial relationships because they are built on performance rather than genuine connection, fear of failure because failing would mean exposing imperfections. Over time, maintaining this facade drains energy and creates a sense of disconnection from oneself. It becomes difficult to feel at peace when a person is constantly trying to be something they are not. The path to living authentically. Rather than chasing an unattainable version of ourselves, true peace and fulfillment come from embracing who we really are, flaws, imperfections, and all. This process involves several key elements. Self-reflection. One must first understand their true identity, separate from societal roles or labels. Ask, who am I when I'm not performing for others? What do I truly value? When do I feel most like myself? Taking time to reflect on these questions helps uncover the real self buried beneath layers of expectations. Accepting imperfection. Perfection is an illusion. No one has all the answers, perfect behavior, or complete control over life. Accepting this reality leads to self-compassion and relieves the pressure of having to constantly prove oneself. Releasing ego defenses. The ego often resists vulnerability, leading people to develop defensive behaviors such as arrogance, judgment, or overcompensation. Letting go of these defenses allows for genuine interactions and a greater sense of ease. Living in alignment with personal values. Instead of trying to impress others or fit into pre-existing molds, individuals should make choices that reflect their real desires and values. This could mean pursuing a different career, changing social circles, or simply speaking more honestly about their feelings. Practicing mindfulness and self-awareness. A quiet mind allows one to reconnect with their inner truth. Through mindfulness, journaling, or meditation, people can observe their thoughts and emotions without judgment, making it easier to distinguish what is real from what is imposed. Letting go of external validation, constantly seeking approval from others traps individuals in the idealized self. True contentment comes when validation is internal, rooted in self-acceptance rather than external praise. The benefits of living authentically by embracing the real self rather than chasing an idealized version, individuals experience inner peace, less mental conflict and self-criticism, emotional well-being, reduced anxiety and depression, stronger relationships, more meaningful connections with others, greater resilience, the ability to handle challenges with honesty and strength, freedom, no longer bound by the fear of judgment or failure. The journey toward authenticity is about undoing rather than adding. It requires letting go of unrealistic ideals, embracing personal truths, and recognizing that who you are is already enough. True happiness is not found in becoming someone different, but in fully accepting and living as oneself. Zen mind, inner peace, rising above life's turmoil and the hidden cost of superficial modern-day relationships. A personal story. The world is in shambles and turmoil, resulting in superficial relationships, shallow relationships, empty relationships, and surface relationships that do not go deep and leave us gloom but pretending outwardly. All these send us swimming in a river of pain, despair, and sorrow. In this context, how do we find happiness and inner calm? The path out lies in rising above life's turmoil, in developing a Zen mind. A Zen mind uses wisdom and personal strength to pull us out of that river of pain. Allow me to explain this through a very true personal story. So many people are trapped in relationships that exist more for display than for genuine connection. They hold on not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of judgment, fear of facing the emptiness within. A message that hit hard. Not long ago, I received a WhatsApp message from a female friend that stopped me in my tracks. She simply wrote, "Have you seen how I've thinned? How I have lost weight?" Alarmed, I asked, "What's wrong?" Her reply was heavy with pain. "Relationship issues. I am completely down and lost so much weight. One day, we are all going to die from depression. Let me take a nap." I stared at the message. It was more than just words. It was a glimpse into a soul struggling to stay afloat. It reflected the silent suffering that so many endure, lost in the illusion of connection while feeling utterly alone. She had been in a relationship that looked beautiful from the outside. Photos of vacation, sweet messages on birthdays, heart, emojis under every post. But beneath the surface, it was falling apart. The affection had faded, the emotional distance had grown, and now she was left clinging to a love that had already let go of her. The truth is, many relationships are not built on genuine love, but rather on dependency, fear, and conformity. People enter them believing that they are incomplete on their own, that they need someone else to make them whole. This illusion is reinforced by society, which glorifies romantic relationships while neglecting the far more critical foundation of self-love and self-care. But when love is sought as a cure for loneliness, as a validation of worth, or as a shield against societal judgment, it becomes toxic. It becomes a slow erosion of the self, a sacrifice of personal joy for the sake of maintaining a status quo that does not serve the individual. The cult of relationship pressure. The pressure to be in a relationship is relentless. Family, culture, and media push the narrative that fulfillment comes from finding a partner. That being single is a problem that needs to be fixed. That happiness is only real when shared with another. And so people enter relationships unprepared, unequipped, and unguarded. They give their all, sometimes to people who do not deserve it, sometimes to people who are equally lost. They pour themselves out until nothing is left. And then, when things fall apart, as they often do when built on insecurity rather than strength, they are left broken, questioning their worth, and battling the heavy fog of depression. The path to liberation. Loving oneself first. If we are to break this cycle, we must start by dismantling the myth that a relationship is the highest form of fulfillment. It is not. The highest form of fulfillment is peace within oneself. Self-care is not selfish. It is survival. Self-love is not a luxury. It is the foundation of all other forms of love. Until one is whole within themselves, no relationship can bring lasting joy. It will only be a temporary high, followed by an inevitable crash. If my friend had remained committed to her own well-being, prioritizing her own happiness above all else, she would still be the vibrant, radiant person she once was. But she, like many others, was led to believe that love required sacrifice, even when that sacrifice meant losing herself. Choose yourself every time. The most radical act in a world that demands conformity is to love oneself unapologetically. To choose solitude over a relationship that drains. To walk away rather than be diminished. To my friend, and to all the walking wounded, wake up. Take your power back. Love should never make you lose yourself. Choose yourself every time. African Universal Zen, a synthesis of rational philosophy and spiritual insight. Rational human beings need philosophy, a coherent rational framework to guide their lives, navigate the complexities of existence, and find meaning in a world often fraught with absurdity. Philosophy provides a roadmap, a lens through which to interpret the world, and a balm for the mind, enabling individuals to tolerate life's inherent contradictions and uncertainties. While philosophy does not predict the future, it illuminates the present, offering clarity and purpose. For the masses, religion often serves a similar function, providing mythological and symbolic answers to life's deepest questions. Religion, unlike philosophy, does not always rely on rationality. It offers comfort, community, and a sense of belonging. However, both philosophy and religion address the existential questions that confront humanity. What is life? Why do we live? Why should we not succumb to despair or nihilism? In contrast, modern psychotherapies often fall short of addressing these profound questions. Psychotherapy tends to pathologize the human condition, assuming that individuals are mentally ill and in need of treatment. Yet most people are not ill. They are simply perplexed by the challenges of existence. They seek guidance, not diagnosis. While approximately 2% of the population may suffer from psychotic disorders, the vast majority grapple with existential dilemmas that neither psychology nor psychotherapy can adequately address. These disciplines, rooted in scientific methodology, often avoid questions that lie beyond empirical verification, such as the nature of the soul, the meaning of life, or the existence of other realms. The 20th century, often hailed as the age of psychology, produced a plethora of psychotherapeutic approaches, many of which remain shallow and inadequate for addressing the deeper needs of rational adults. Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytic theories, while groundbreaking, focused excessively on sexuality and failed to provide meaningful answers to existential questions. Alfred Adler came closer, emphasizing social interest and purpose, but his framework was limited by his teleological assumptions. The century's philosophical contributions, meanwhile, were overshadowed by the dominance of science and the linguistic turn in philosophy, as seen in the works of Ludwig Wittgenstein and Jacques Derrida. These thinkers, while influential, often retreated into abstract analyses of language, leaving traditional philosophical concerns, ontology, metaphysics, ethics, and aesthetics unaddressed. Science, for all its achievements, has yet to shed light on the most profound questions that occupy the human mind. Who are we? Where did we come from? What happens after death? Does the soul exist? Science, bound by its methodological constraints, avoids these questions. focusing instead on the material world. Yet, the future may hold discoveries that bridge the gap between the material and the spiritual, such as the existence of a multiverse, including non-material spiritual dimensions. In this context, African Universal Zen emerges as a bold, synthesized philosophy that addresses the needs of rational beings while honoring the spiritual insights of humanity's diverse traditions. Drawing from the wisdom of the West and the East, African Universal Zen integrates the best of philosophical thought, religious insight, and scientific understanding into a coherent, life-affirming framework. Zen, the essence of African Universal. Zen African Universal. Zen is not an escape from reality, but an embrace of it. It acknowledges the inherent meaninglessness and absurdity of the world, yet boldly provides a path to finding purpose and meaning. It is akin to Gnosticism in its quest for deeper knowledge, but does not negate the material world or retreat into unverifiable metaphysical realms. It shares existentialism's focus on individual freedom and responsibility, but avoids the despair and nihilism that often characterize existentialist thought. This philosophy is rooted in the recognition that human beings are both rational and spiritual creatures. It synthesizes insights from a wide array of thinkers and traditions, including Western philosophy. From Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle to Kant, Hegel, and Nietzsche, African Universal Zen incorporates the enduring questions and answers and of Western thought. Eastern spirituality. The teachings of Krishna, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Confucius, and others provide a spiritual depth that complements rational inquiry. African traditions. African Universal Zen draws on the wisdom of African religions, purging them of superstition while retaining their profound insights into the interconnectedness of all life. Modern science. Classical and contemporary scientific discoveries, from Newtonian mechanics to quantum physics, are integrated into this philosophy, offering a holistic understanding of the African Universal Zen, redefining success, failure, and the path to inner peace. In a world obsessed with success and riddled with a fear of failure, society often defines these terms in narrow, materialistic ways. Success is equated with wealth, status, and power, while failure is seen as the inability to achieve these markers. Yet such definitions fail to address the deeper existential questions that plague the human mind. What is the purpose of life? What does it mean to truly succeed? And how can one find peace in a world that often feels chaotic and absurd? African Universal Zen, a philosophy rooted in the synthesis of rational thought, spiritual insight, and African wisdom, offers a transformative perspective on success and failure. It challenges the conventional narratives and invites individuals to look inward to discover their true selves and to live authentically. This philosophy is not an escape from reality, but a profound engagement with it, offering a roadmap for navigating life's complexities with clarity, purpose, and inner peace. S. The illusion of success and failure. Society's definition of success is often superficial. It rewards those who climb the corporate ladder, accumulate wealth, or achieve fame, while dismissing those who do not meet these standards as failures. Yet this binary view of success and failure is deeply flawed. It ignores the diversity of human aspirations and the unique paths each individual must walk. African Universal Zen identifies two types of success. Conventional success. This is the success of the normal person who follows societal expectations, completing education, securing a stable job, and providing for a family. While this path is commendable, it often lacks deeper meaning. The individual may achieve material comfort but remain spiritually unfulfilled. Authentic success. This is the success of those who pursue their true passions and purpose, regardless of societal validation. It is the scientist who dedicates their life to understanding the human brain, the artist who creates beauty, or the philosopher who seeks wisdom. Authentic success is not measured by wealth or status, but by the joy and fulfillment one derives from living in alignment with their true self. Similarly, failure can be understood in two ways. Societal failure. Oh, this is the failure to meet societal expectations, such as unemployment or financial instability. While such circumstances can be challenging, they do not define a person's worth or potential. Existential failure. This is the failure to live authentically, to deny one's true self and pursue a life dictated by external expectations. It is the artist who abandons their craft to become a salesman, or the thinker who suppresses their curiosity to conform to societal norms. Existential failure is the true tragedy, for it robs individuals of their unique contribution to the world. The neurotic quest for perfection. At the heart of much human suffering is the neurotic pursuit of an idealized self. Drawing from the insights of Karen Horney and Alfred Adler, African Universal Zen recognizes that many individuals reject their real selves and strive to become someone they are not. This neurotic quest for perfection is driven by a deep-seated sense of inadequacy and a desire for power and control. The neurotic individual is often highly critical, both of themselves and others. They reject reality as it is and seek to impose their ideals on the world. This can manifest in various ways, from the grandiose ambitions of a narcissistic leader to the obsessive perfectionism of a creative artist. While this drive can lead to remarkable achievements, it often comes at the cost of inner peace and authentic relationships. African Universal Zen teaches that true success lies not in the pursuit of perfection, but in the acceptance of imperfection. It invites individuals to embrace their real selves with all their flaws and limitations and to find meaning in the process of growth and self-discovery. The path to inner peace. African Universal Zen offers a path to inner peace through the principles of self-awareness, love, and forgiveness. It recognizes that the ego, with its endless desires and fears, is the source of much human suffering. By transcending the ego and connecting with a deeper, unified self, individuals can find lasting peace and fulfillment. Reflections on Stoicism, music, and the human condition. On Sunday, I found myself reflecting on Epictetus, 55–135 AD, the Stoic philosopher whose wisdom has influenced countless thinkers. I searched my collection for his works, remembering how I had often drawn on his philosophy in my practice as a psychotherapist. His teachings deeply shaped cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, particularly through Albert Ellis and Aaron Beck, who emphasized that our thoughts, not external events, determine our emotions. This idea is central to human resilience. It is not the world that makes us happy, sad, or anxious, but rather how we perceive and interpret it. The world does not act upon us. Instead, we assign meaning to our experiences, and this meaning shapes our emotional responses. The key to emotional stability lies in learning to master our interpretations, in training our minds to remain equanimous in the face of life's inevitable difficulties. Realizing I could not find my copies of Epictetus's works, I reminded myself of one of his core teachings: do not sweat the small things. I called Barnes & Noble, asked them to hold a few of his books for me, and promptly picked them up. Later that evening, as I immersed myself in the discourses, I felt transported into a world of timeless wisdom. Few things bring me as much joy as philosophy. It is in many ways my personal heaven. The role of music in human survival, beyond philosophy. Another source of solace has always been music. 2 weeks ago, I ordered a collection of 1970s rhythm and blues classics, and when the CDs arrived, I played them as I read Epictetus. The blend of philosophy and music created a deep sense of connection, both to timeless ideas and to the raw, soulful expression of the human experience. Music is more than entertainment. It is a lifeline. Can humanity survive without music? Given the harsh realities of existence, where individuals must struggle to make sense of their place in an impersonal world, it is difficult to imagine a life without art, music, poetry, and storytelling. These forms of expression help us endure the weight of existence, offering beauty, meaning, and connection in an otherwise indifferent universe. For me, African American soul music carries a profound emotional weight. It is not just about melody. It is a testament to resilience. The voices of Marvin Gaye, Aretha Franklin, James Brown, and Gladys Knight tell stories of survival in the face of oppression. Their music was a response to suffering, an artistic rebellion against a world that had tried to dehumanize them. Philosophy, as mental armor as I reflect on history, suffering, and resilience, I find myself returning to Epictetus' core message. We cannot control the world, but we can control how we think about it. Our interpretations shape our emotional reality. Freedom is not external. It is the mastery of one's mind. Stoicism is often misunderstood as a cold and detached philosophy, but in reality, it is a practical guide to emotional and mental strength. It does not ask us to suppress emotions, but to train the mind to respond wisely rather than react impulsively. This perspective is deeply relevant in a world filled with injustice, pain, and absurdity. Epictetus, who was born into slavery, did not succumb to despair. Instead, he hardened his mind, cultivated wisdom, and found freedom within himself. He reminds us that suffering is not what breaks us. It is our interpretation of suffering that determines our fate. Final thoughts: music and philosophy serve a similar purpose. They help us endure the struggle of existence. One speaks to the rational mind, the other to the soul. But both remind us that while life is harsh, it is also filled with beauty, meaning, and possibility. As I listen to the timeless echoes of soul music and read the ancient wisdom of Stoicism, I'm reminded of the profound resilience of the human spirit. Life may be unpredictable, often cruel, but how we engage with it is always within our control. In the words of Epictetus, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters.
In the whispering woods where the shadows play, we roam with the spirits, the poison way. With every soft step on the earth so old, we carry the stories, the legends untold. With the sun on our faces and the trees as our nest, we're the guardians of nature, forever blessed. We are the ancient people of the forest wide. In harmony with the earth, we stand with pride. With every hunt we bring forth our might, eating great meat under the stars at night. With the sound of the drums echoing clear, we dance with the fire, our hearts full of cheer. The rhythms of nature, they guide us through time. In the arms of the wild, our spirits will climb. From the roots of the trees to the skies up above, we nurture this land with our wisdom and love. We are the ancient people of the forest wide. In harmony with the earth, we stand with pride. With every hunt we bring forth our might, eating great meat under the stars at night. Through valleys and rivers we wander and roam. With each step we take, we find our way home. In the language of nature we speak and belong, bound to the earth where our hearts stay strong. We are the ancient people of the forest wide. In harmony with the earth, we stand with pride. With every hunt we bring forth our might, eating great meat under the stars at night. So listen to the whispers, the tales of the past. We are the Koi sun, our legacy will last. With the forest as friends and the stars shining bright, we celebrate life.